In this video, I'm going to be walking you through the process of how I made the strongest PAL in the game. So this is Frostallion Noct, and currently it has 2,783 attack with all of the buffs from the party members, and it wouldn't have decreased my defense. And 1,042 defense, along with a really nice health pool of 7,619. And I bred this Frostallion Noct to have Legend for attack plus 20%, defense plus 20%, and movement speed plus 15%. Ferocious, attack plus 20%, Musclehead, attack plus 30%, and work speed minus 50%, and aggressive, attack plus 10%, defense minus 10%. I would have rather had Hooligan instead of aggressive, because that would have given me attack plus 15%. There are a few ways to do essentially what I did, but most of the other pals that you use are not going to be able to have as much stats as this one, because legendaries just have base higher stats than a lot of the other pals. On top of this, it makes a pretty good mount because it can fly and it's fast as well. It also gives any of your mounted attacks a nice bonus dark damage. Having dark laser along with some other strong attacks will really make this pal do a ton of damage. There's a good amount of grinding that went into making this thing. You can make an inferior version pretty easily, but if you want to make it like 2,500 plus attack, you're going to need to grind quite a bit. You could also get another 12% attack or so above what it has right now, but I decided to quit grinding because I just basically got sick of grinding. So you can make it even stronger than this one too. I really wanted to hit the 3,000 mark, but I would have needed to catch like 500 Hoocrates in order to make it do that. Anyways, let's get into it. To make Frostallion Noct, you just need a Frostallion and a Hellzephyr, so my first step was to catch a Frostallion. And Frostallion has roughly equivalent stats to Frostallion Noct, so one of the alternatives you can do to this strat is have Frostallion and have Foxicles in your team instead. The reason I chose Noct though is because Dark has some nice damage moves, and I initially thought it would be easier to just go around and catch Hellzephyrs until they had the traits I wanted to pass on, so that I wouldn't have to keep grinding for Frostallions or breeding Frostallions in order to get the traits I wanted. I don't think that's entirely true though. I think just breeding Frostallions until you get the traits you want, and then breeding only the ones with the traits you want, would be about as fast, looking at this in retrospect. But again, Frostallion doesn't really have the moves I want either. And getting a lot of Foxicles is a lot harder than getting a lot of Hoocrates. So the first thing that I did was go around near Ancient Ritual Site and catch a bunch of Hellzephyrs. My goal here was to get a Hellzephyr with Ferocious and a Hellzephyr that had Musclehead. Any other attack traits like Aggressor or Hooligan would have been nice to have too. But for pure attack, Musclehead and Ferocious are essential. And after I finally caught Hellzephyr that had a Ferocious and a Hellzephyr with Musclehead, I just bred them over and over until I finally got an egg that had both of those traits, which took longer than expected. I would normally expect both of the traits to pass on within like 10 breeds or so, but it took more like 25. Something crucial here too is that I needed one that was a different gender than the Frostallion I was going to breed, and I really only needed Legend from the Frostallion at this point. Unfortunately, this one wasn't the right gender, so I had to actually go and catch more Frostallions, which didn't really take long, and I got lucky and got a Frostallion that had Hooligan, which didn't end up mattering because it never got passed down to the final breed anyways. But the more good traits you want that each of them have, the less breeds you're going to have to do to get the final product you want. After I got a few Frostallion Nocts that were good, I ended up just breeding the Frostallion Nocts with the traits that I wanted to increase my odds. That's not really a necessary step that you have to take, but it can help. The bottom line is, more total traits that you want on each of the parents, the better chances you'll get something really good. And after I think about 60 breed attempts, I ended up getting this one. It had Ferocious, Legend, Musclehead, and Aggressive. Hooligan would have been even better in place of Aggressive because it wouldn't have had that negative defense boost and it would have had 5% more attack. But this was good enough for me. Once I got the Frostallion Noct to level 50, it had 1,396 attack base and 669 defense, as well as 5,100 health. And this is before I've done any modifications to it. So now I'm going to go to the PAL statue and make its attack higher. And there are 3 things that we're going to do to be increasing its attack by a lot. Right, so we're already at 1,814 attack. Now that that's done, I'm going to use all the extras that I got from breeding to upgrade it at the PAL condenser. And it's showing the base stats, so this is before the modifiers. After 1, it's at 1,904. Okay, so 2 has us at 1,994. We are almost to the 2,000 mark. Like, I'll be getting rid of some that I didn't originally want to get rid of. Okay, so now we have 2,086 base attack. I ended up deciding to breed them until I could max out the PAL condensation too. And this should be another huge stat boost. Now it has 2,299 base attack. Then the final thing I needed to do was get a bunch of Hoocrates and condense them. It's because their dark knowledge skill makes it to where they increase the attack power of dark pals. And condensing them increases this boost. The first few levels of this condensation actually don't do much. It's like 1, 2, and 3%, and then the last level does like 7%, which I never got to the last level with any of them, because you have to condense 64 of them just to get to level 5 from level 4. But at level 1 you get a 12% attack boost, and at level 5 you get a 24% attack boost. But to catch these Hoocrates, I went to the Rain Syndicate Tower, and I turned my game modifiers to where it's mostly nighttime. Then I just ran around catching every Hoocrates that I saw. And with 1 level 2 Hoocrates and 3 level 3 Hoocrates in my party, I made the Frostallion Noct have 2,783 attack. Now I'll go through the options of doing this with other pals as well. And I'll go over pretty much every single option you can have so that you can use this same strategy on your team if, for example, you don't have legendaries yet, or if you just want a different type or pal to make really strong. And really, without having a legendary, you won't get up to this point of stats, so your options to get this high are probably Frostallion Noct, Frostallion, Gladius, and Necromus. It would have been really nice if Jetragging could get it, but there is no pal that increases the attack of dragon types while it's in the team. I'll list off some really good alternatives to this though. So if you have something like a Blazamut or Jormuntide Ignis, then you can have rubies and do the same thing, because their tiny spark skill increases the attack of fire pals. If you want to do it with a grass type like Lylene or another powerful grass type, you can use Bristla. For strong ground types like Anubis, you can use Dumud. For any of the ice types like Frostallion, you can use Foxicles. Strong water types like Jormuntide, you can use Kelpsea. Kelpsea Ignis is also able to be used in the same way that Ruby is. For a strong electric type like Orzurk, you can use Sparkit. And then for strong neutral types like Palladius, you can use Cremis. There are also 2 special pals that will get their attack and defense increased based on how many of a certain pal are in the team with you. So Elizabeth gets an attack and defense increased from having B guards, and this works the same way that I was explaining the Hoocrates boost. And the same thing works with Sweepa and Sui. I would say the main problem with these is that Sweepa is a pretty slow mount, and also Elizabeth and Sweepa don't have that amazing of base stats. So when you're multiplying low base stats a lot, you're not going to be able to get the kind of results as if you had like legendary type base stats. And that's it for this video. Make sure to subscribe for more Palworld content like this.